Welcome to the very first War Room podcast of the 2026 draft season. I am Mina. I am joined to do this episode by Brett Kollmann. You've been on the pod before. You have not done a War Room, so this is very exciting. Brett has his own YouTube channel, The Bootleg Football Show. Check it out. Brett, are you ready to draft with me?
Yeah, this is like a choose your own adventure kind of mock draft. It's a new format for me. I'm excited.
I love doing it this way because I feel like I call it War Room because I almost feel like we're trying to recreate what it's like inside an NFL War Room as they're debating picks. So the way we do it every year is I give 2 picks to Brett for every team. So all 32 teams, well, who are picking the first round, are represented here. I am going to do trades, but I'm not going to do them in this first episode. I want to keep it clean before things get really complicated with my trades. We'll be doing this weekly, by the way, between now and the draft. Next week will be with Daniel Jeremiah. So stay tuned because I'm going to introduce, new picks for every team. You're going to have lots of options discussed. Today, however, we are starting with the Las Vegas Raiders, of course, at pick 1. I think I will probably do trades as options in the future, but I'm not going to do that here. I'm going to give you the question that is apparently on the minds of everybody right now, which is who is QB1 in the 2026 draft? Didn't think it was going to be a question if you had asked me a month ago, but it's a hot topic at the moment. So, Brett, with the first pick of the 2026 NFL draft, you are picking on behalf of the Las Vegas Raiders and choosing between Indiana quarterback Fernando Mendoza and Alabama quarterback Ty Simpson. Who are you going to take?
So I'm going to take Fernando Mendoza, and I do want to say, I mean, Dan's gotten shellacked over the last week for this take. I respect that he had the guts to say what he believes and what he feels, and I also understand why he had Simpson as his QB1. If you're looking at the tape, particularly in the first 9 weeks, he made a lot of NFL type throws, right? It's under center, play action, turning your back to the defense, which a lot of college quarterbacks, including Fernando Mendoza, never ever did. He's ripping backside digs. Like, there's a lot of NFL stuff there. My concern is when I was down at the combine and I was standing next to Ty Simpson and Fernando Mendoza, and I'm looking at them side by side, I can't help but think, when this person takes a hit from Khalil Mack, when they take a hit from even some of the edges in this class, Ruben Bain, will they spontaneously turn to dust? I would say no for Fernando Mendoza. Like, he's got body armor. He could take those hits. We saw that in the playoffs. Ty Simpson, he's only got 15 starts. I'm not sure he can handle the rigors of a full NFL slate, which is already longer. Like, one season is going to be more starts than he ever had in college football, plus playoffs. You could, maybe play 21 games in a season. I don't know if he can hold up against that. He's just not a big guy. So from a tape perspective, I understand why Dan had that opinion. Tape is good. Realistically, will he survive? That's what I'm more thinking about. And I more trust Fernando to survive long enough to develop.
The size discrepancy is real. It is meaningful. There's lots of historical NFL data. Actually, later this week, Nate, Tyson, Danny, and I are going to talk about the quarterbacks, and we're going to get into this in depth because I do think it is a very important point when talking about them. And I think you made the pick that the Raiders are going to make with number 1, Mendoza. Okay, number 2 is where things get really interesting for me because we've got the New York Jets on the clock. I'm not going to put a quarterback here. Edge is where everybody thinks they're going to go. But which pass rusher is wildly open? Maybe more open than I've seen in quite some time. I am going to give you a choice between 2 edge rushers. One is a very obvious no-brainer, line him up at wide 9, David Bailey, Texas Tech. The other is, I think, seen as the higher variance play, and that is Arvell Reese, who the Ohio State was a versatile player, sometimes off the ball, sometimes on the ball. If you're the New York Jets, who would you take, Bailey or Reese?
So this one's tough because, honestly, if I had a choice between either of those two and probably the third edge you would be thinking of, which is Ruben Bain, I probably would have gone with Bain. But if we're just strictly going between Bailey and Reese, I'll probably go Reese there because I feel like the way that this Jets defense would use him would be very similar to how Ohio State used him, which is very similar to how the Patriots once used Dante Hightower. I see Reese as not a pure edge. I also see him as not a pure off ball linebacker. I see him as a movable chess piece that can get them into different fronts. And if you're looking at how the Patriots used Hightower back in the day and how Ohio State under Matt Patricia used Reese, it was okay, we're going to use him as an edge when we want to get into our 5-man surface looks with all 5 guys on the line of scrimmage. We will plug him in over guards. We will use him off ball if we want to be in a 4-man surface. And how the Patriots used Hightower was they would get into the same kind of front, but 5 different ways in the same game. So it would look like 5 different fronts. It was really confusing for offenses, but really it's the same thing. It's just, okay, we're taking our linebacker, we're putting him at edge, we're taking our edge, we're putting him at 3 technically. It was kind of a mix and match style approach. And I think Reese is perfect for that style. I don't think he's a full-time edge. I don't think he's Micah Parsons. I also don't think he's like Anthony Barr, where we're full-time converting him to off-ball linebacker. I think he's both. And I think the Jets are one of the few teams that would use him that way compared to Bailey, which is a full-time edge. And I don't necessarily think they're going to get their bang for their buck compared to what they would use Reese for.
Reese is all about usage to me, all about the plan. And as you mentioned, maybe the Jets do have one. Okay, 3 is I'm gonna. So you mentioned you like Bane. So we're talking about the Arizona Cardinals. I'm gonna put Bane here as an option for them. And I'm going to put him up against not Bailey. I'm going to put him up against Francis Mauigoa, the tackle out of Miami. I think this is a legit question the Cardinals will be wrestling with at this point in the draft. Offensive tackle versus defensive lineman. 2 very good players, teammates in this Miami versus Miami matchup. Who are you taking?
I'm like picking between my favorite kids here. This is tough. So I'm going to go with Francis Mauigoa. Not begrudgingly, but like it's really, really hard for me. Bane would be the only player that I would consider not taking Mauigoa for. The reason why I'm still ultimately going Mauigoa is because my number one long-term objective for the Cardinals is building a destination that fits a quarterback for 2027 and beyond. We're pretty sure that they're going to be, active and looking for quarterbacks in 2027. I'm not 100% sure. Actually, I'm very confident the long-term answer is currently not on the roster. Maybe if they brought in Malik Willis, I would have adjusted my stance here, but I really do think that they have to get a right tackle. If you're looking at all of the right tackles combined on this roster, they were like collectively one of the 5 worst right tackle situations in the entire NFL last year. And I want to create a destination where I can slide in a rookie in 2027. I've got good receivers. I'll have a good offensive line. Ideally, Trey Benson becomes what we think he can be out of the backfield. Obviously you got Trey at tight end. Like that's a very, very attractive destination, but it won't be attractive if the future quarterback is destroyed. So give me right tackle. I think it's a very safe pick. I think he'll play there for a long time.
All right, the Titans at 4 are thrilled because they have a desperate need at pass rush, and they have their choice now of 2 of the 3 best pass rushers in the draft. I am not giving you Jeremiah Love as an option because I disagree with that wholeheartedly here. I am giving you Bane versus Bailey for the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, give me Ruben Bane here. And it's nothing against David Bailey. It's just if you're looking at the profile for what works in the NFL, it's power. Like it is power, power, power. The average, if you're looking at 10 years of data, the average physical profile for top 10 edge rushers in terms of pressures every single year for the last decade, it's guys that are 6'3", mid 260s, power rushers. We're talking like 60th percentile verts and agilities. Like it's if you can go in a straight line and you can collapse the pocket like a Jared Verse, if you're explosive enough, if you're agile enough, even without like elite explosiveness and agility, as long as you can collapse the pocket, you're going to be productive. That's what Ruben Bane does. And by the way, he also has Ben too. So I'm not really worried about the arm length because if arm length was an issue, he probably would have shown that to be an issue sometime in college. Like guys that had longer arms than him, that weighed more than him, were still helpless against him. He has unreal power. He's got great bend. He produces. Like I don't really know why we're overthinking this one. He's going to be a really, really good NFL edge.
So Bailey is our faller at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
We're still 4 or 5. It's not, that much of a fall. However, the Giants are a team that Might be the only team in the whole goddamn draft that doesn't need a pass rusher.
Yeah.
So we're not going to put him on the board for you. I'm going to give you what I think is an interesting choice. Again, I'm not putting love here. This is we should remind I should have said this at the beginning. This is the what would Brett do, not what we think. I know people who have listened to this a long time know this. We're not trying to predict the draft. We are trying to make the decisions we think are the smartest. And I'm doing that as well, right? With some of these choices, I am giving the choice that if I'm a team, I'm debating between. And I'm going to put up another couple teammates against each other for the New York Giants, but I'm not going to put teammates on the same side of the ball. On one option, you have Sonny Styles, the linebacker out of Ohio State. Amazing prospect, crushed the combine. Area of need for them, could be used a number of ways. On the other side, though, I am not going to go with Downs. I'm going to put Carnell Tate here because I do think the Giants should consider a receiver. They do need help there, and also they've got a young quarterback who's entering year 2. So Styles versus his teammate Carnell Tate. If you're the New York Giants, who are you taking?
I'm going to go with Tate, and that is because my main goal as a Giants GM here, a fake Giants GM, I need to make Jackson Dart work, right? Like, I really, really need this to work. And right now, we're going to have Malik Neighbors coming off injury, but if Malik gets dinged again, we're staring down the barrel of Darius Slayton and Darnell Mooney as our top 2 receivers. I cannot abide by that. So I'm going to go with Tate, even though I have an overall higher grade on Sonny Styles. My organizational objective is to develop this quarterback and get him to a place where we can afford to take something other than receiver in the top 5 if we happen to pick that high in the future. So I think, Dart's best chance to become the guy is just having unlimited weapons, and I think this fits that goal.
The Cleveland Browns are devastated. I think they might be the team I keep seeing. Like the Tate to the Browns seems like one of the most likely picks, because they do desperately need receivers. I would say their single biggest need, and you just took wide receiver 1 off the board, and pick 6 feels rich for the next receiver. So I'm sure they would love to trade down, but we are not doing trades down. And I'm not going to give you a receiver here as a choice for them. I'm going to make you pick between 2 offensive linemen, which is another glaring area, right? And I think the Browns, similar to Dart, similar to more similar, I would say, to the Cardinals. A lot of your reasoning there about the Cardinals, you got to set it up for the next quarterback, applies to the Browns as well. So the 2 linemen I'm going to have you choose between are 2 different positions. It's a bit early, but I'm going to give you the choice of the Penn State guard, Venga Ioane, or Spencer Fano, the tackle out of Utah. Would you go Fano or you? And I, let's start by saying the Browns need both, right? So I don't think there's like a positional hierarchy here. It's really about the player for you.
God, this is brutal. This is absolutely brutal because I thought Fano had a spectacular workout at the combine. Watching him move in person was like a religious experience. He's an incredible athlete. I know some people say he's interior only. I think he could work at tackle. I really do. I see him similar to like Zach Martin when Zach Martin was coming out, where it's like, yeah, he could play tackle. He'd be an unbelievable guard, and Martin was. I think with his positional utility, you go with Fano here just because they can kind of play him anywhere and it'll work. If they want him to compete with DeJuan Jones at left tackle, fine. If they want him to compete with Zion at left guard, fine. If they want to compete with Elton for center, fine. He can do all of it. The only 2 positions that I would say are like firmly settled in Cleveland are the right side of the line with Tevin and Titus. Everything else I think is up for grabs. And like they did their best to bring in free agents just to kind of get them into a decent position for 2026. But Fano can legitimately compete for everything from center out to left tackle. So I'll bring him in, and then we do our best to get our best 5 on the field for September. Ioane, I think, is a unbelievable prospect in his own right. He's probably going to go off the board pretty quick here, but Fano gives me at least a little bit more utility.
The Commanders are stoked. David Bailey still available to them. Wow. Yeah. Who thought this would happen? What a scenario. The choice is Bailey versus, I'm going to put Sonny Styles here and not Love.
Ooh.
Oh, no, you know what? Screw it. I'll put Love because I want to hear you just address this because Love is right now the Commanders of the team. I'm seeing linked the most with Love. So if you were choosing between David Bailey and Jeremiah Love, who would you choose?
So they made a concerted effort to bring in free agent backs. I
Yeah.
think A, because they don't expect Love to be there, and B, I think they wanted to give themselves a reason to take something other than running back. Like they brought in Rashad White, they brought in Jerome Ford. You still got Bill Krosky Merritt. I really think that they're not aiming for running back here, or rather, they're trying to make it so they're not relying on Love being there. So for that, I'll go with Bailey because I think their running back or their backfield is fine right now. Is Love better than all those guys? Yeah, I think he is, but it feels like the organization's trying to set it up where they don't have to. Whereas if you're looking at edge right now, they did bring in Owe, they did bring in Chase on again. I think to give themselves options, but I don't think that they're going into this season like saying, "Oh, we're fine at edge." I really don't think that's how they're looking at this. And like, I'm not going to say no to having a 4-man rotation, a 5-man rotation, even of Owe, Chason, Bailey, Dorrance Armstrong, Charles Omenihu. Like that's a strong rotation. I feel like that's probably the more prudent pick here, even though I have a higher grade on Love.
Who's taking Love before them?
I mean,
I didn't give it as an option because I just don't think any of these teams can afford to consider it. I guess the Giants are an option.
I would say the Giants would be the main one that I'm looking at there because Cam Scatterbo,
I should
as
have
much
made
as
you.
I
Yeah.
I
Mm.
I I think that Cam coming off injury, and even if Cam was healthy, I still don't think it's not the same conversation as far as like
Okay,
talent, right?
I
And
would think.
again, if the organizational goal is to make Jackson Dart work, I think Jeremiah Love can help with that. And
Right.
I've had a lot of debates about running back value this
You could pay.
offseason, and the data says don't take one super high because you're not going to get contract value. And I'm like, okay, but if you have a rookie quarterback who's giving you contract value, my main thing is like, let's get the most out of that rookie quarterback by giving
Sure.
them easier downs and distances to work with. Like, I think you're going to make back the quote unquote financial
Are
value by making everything else work better.
are you more likely to get those easier downs and distances with a wide receiver or improving the offensive line? I think is like I just debate whether the Giants are even in position to do that, right? Because the interior of the offensive line and the wide receiver group is a problem. But anyways, I should have given you that as an option to have that debate because I think it's an interesting one of Tate versus Love at 5. Okay, but we didn't do that. We're with the New Orleans Saints. Lot of interesting options for them on the board. Love is still on the board for them. They did sign Travis Achan this offseason, though, or to a pretty big contract. So I'm not going to give that as an option. I'm going to give you Sonny Styles, who is still here. That's a fun one. And we'll put up Jordan Tyson as wide receiver, too. So
Hmm.
Tyson and Styles for the Saints, both very fun picks, I think.
They did bring in Caden Ellis, but I still have to go with Sonny Styles here. Like I like Caden Ellis as a player. Um, I not bring in Caden Ellis. I think he was already there. No, he was Atlanta, wasn't he?
No, they brought him back. Yeah, they brought him back. He
Yeah,
went to
that's right.
Atlanta, and he came. It's fun. It's a fun addition.
I
Good fun
still don't
scheme.
think Werner and Ellis are gonna stop me from taking Styles. And even if it's just like, okay, we have 3 great linebackers instead of 2, that's fine with me because Sonny is just such a gifted prospect. And I do this thing when I watch college players is I try to calibrate my eyes beforehand because it's so easy to see these guys that dominate, you know, guys that aren't going to be in the NFL. And you're like, oh my God, this player is really good. But I have to compare it to what actually has worked in the NFL, see how they move compared to like really honestly good NFL players. And that really helps me kind of set the stage for whether or not I can give these guys a high grade. So I watched 2005 Brian Urlacher right before I watched Sonny Styles. It looked pretty similar to me as far as movement ability, size, everything like that. So I was like, okay, if we're getting Brian Urlacher here, I don't care that we already have Warner and Ellis as our linebackers. It's not the worst linebacking core in the world. It's actually a pretty decent linebacking core. That's not stopping me from taking Brian Urlacher. So given the options, I think Sonny's the best player on the board other than Love, but they're not going to take Love because they brought in Achan. So I'm just going to go BPA here, and I'll sleep well over it.
The Chiefs at 9, some interesting options. I'm going to give you. I'm not going. They're the team that signed Walker. I know some people have said they could still sign Love. That would be very dumb to me. I'm
Gluttonous.
going to just. I just can't. I'm gonna give you, I think, a fun choice. Well, yeah, okay. Jordan Tyson still here versus Mansour Delane, the LSU corner. Two areas of
Mm.
need for Kansas City wide receiver and corner.
I do think it's interesting. There's been a trend over the last few picks of teams that brought in free agent running backs because they don't think Jeremiah Love's going to be there, right?
Yeah.
So now we've had 3 teams in a row that probably would have taken Love otherwise, but they're like, "Oh, we already brought in a guy." So I'm curious to see if he does get past 5,
Right. If they pivot
how
and they're
far
like,
does he
screw it.
go, right?
Right.
Or does somebody trade up for him? I think
Well, now we're
that's a
entering a not many running back needy teams little
exactly,
section here
exactly.
at the turn of the draft. So
So that's a storyline for me to follow.
for
As
sure.
for the Tyson versus Mansour debate, I'll go with Delane here, and it's nothing against Tyson as a player. It's just I really I don't want to take a guy who is injured this often, this high.
Mm,
And I don't know why he repeatedly gets dinged up. Like, I don't know if it's an issue with, how he runs. I don't know if it's a nutrition thing. I don't know if it's a genetics thing. It's just he gets soft tissue injuries like almost nobody I've ever seen before. It's almost like Arian Foster, where it's like you could kind of count on it happening once every 6 weeks or so. I don't know what the source is. It is fixable. Like we've seen guys, that change their running style or change their diet, and all of a sudden, like they stop tweaking stuff, like Arian Foster. But until that happens, I'm not sure if I can trust him to stay on the field as much as I really need a top 10 pick to stay on the field. So I'm going to go with Mansour Delane here. Very good corner in his own right. Obviously, they need to replace a corner that they just traded away. So if we're trying to moneyball this thing and get really good starting corner play for less money, I think it's a pretty good value.
I love the Delane Chiefs fit for a litany of reasons I'll get into when I talk about Delane in a few weeks. But yeah, that would be fun. All right, 10 Bengals. I'm going to go opposite sides of the ball. Caleb Downs, who I've not
Mm.
mentioned, or Ioane. Because as much as everyone thinks Bengals defense, they do need a guard, in my opinion.
I'll go Ioane here.
Ooh.
I will.
Okay.
I
The Ravens
again.
are so mad right now.
Oh, they're
They're just sitting
furious.
there waiting. Maybe I'll do a trade up at some point for the Ravens, but okay.
Because he's so perfect for them too.
They need him so bad. Yeah.
But this is the guy who's going to be one of the foundational pieces of the offense. And even though they took Fairchild last year, and I think as the year went on, I think Fairchild played better. I still think Ioane could probably come in and take Dalton Reisner's job, right? Or at minimum, compete with Fairchild for the starting left guard spot. And considering the history of Cincinnati Bengals guards, I don't think they're going to complain about having 3 guys that can play for them at any given time because they tend to get injured there a lot anyway. So I would say that's probably the prudent pick here. It's going to raise the floor of the offense and arguably raise the ceiling of the offense too, if we can get Chase Brown going by just having room to work with at all. So as much as I think Downs would be a great fit for them to help fix this defense, I think Ioane is overall like my higher graded player, and we gotta make we gotta make this offense work with how much money we've invested into it. And I don't want to have all that money be wasted because the offensive line can't block anybody.
11 is the Dolphins. Let's do the wide receiver debate here. Tyson versus Makai Lemon.
Ooh. I'll go Makai Lemon here. I know Tyson is like on paper the more talented player, but again, he does tend to get dinged up a lot. And Lemon just kind of fits the role that I think that this team needs, which is an absolute warrior that works over the middle and doesn't care if he lives or dies. The Amon-Ra St. Brown comps, I fully understand because of that mentality. Like he does not care if he takes big hits over the middle. Great hands, great yards after catch ability. He's really more of a pure slot than somebody who can play both inside and outside, but I think that they can get him on the field immediately. And considering they just traded away Waddle, who is a different style of player, but like they need bodies at receiver. Right now, their number one on paper is like Jalen Tolbert. So I would get Makai Lemon in there and feel pretty good about it.
All right. I'm going to do something I've not seen mentioned a lot for the Dallas Cowboys. I'm going to introduce Jeremiah Love back into the equation. Because we've talked about teams, the Cowboys brought back Williams, but on a cheaper contract, right? And I don't think, they view him in the same tier as Walker and Achan. The other choice is the other best player, Caleb Downs, which is obviously a more glaring, I would say, well, safety is actually not their biggest need, cornerback and defensive line, but I digress. Love versus Downs. Who would you take if you're Dallas?
I think I would go Jeremiah Love here. I really do. I think he's the best player in the draft for one, so we're just getting value.
Can you
But
imagine him in that offense?
oh my god, he'd be
Crazy,
unreal.
crazy
Like the
hours.
fact that you could run pony personnel with Javonte Williams and Jeremiah Love is unbelievable. But also you have to think, okay, Javonte Williams played well for us. If he gets hurt, what do we have? Is it Malik Davis? Is getting 15 carries in a game? It's not Jaden Blue, right? It's not Phil Maffa. So it's like we don't
Drafted Jaden Blue
have
in
anybody else.
Dynasty. I'm sick. I have Jaden Blue. I was like my third round pick in Dynasty last year. It's not a great pick. Anyways, yeah. No, it's
It's like we're not
but
giving Javonte 25 carries a
J-
game.
Jeremiah Love would put up such insane numbers in this offense. It would
Oh,
be
he'd be
bonkers.
unreal. He'd be unreal. And I think you could legitimately you could run the ball 28 times a game with this duo. Give both of them 14 carries. Like neither one of them is going to get ground down. Again, Javante's deal, I'm pretty sure they can get out of it after 2 years at most. Might be able to get out of it after 1 year.
After one, really.
But
Yeah,
we're still going to
it's
have
not.
3 more years of contract control for Love after that. Before, if you count a tag. So it's not like we're like wasting the rookie deal for Jeremiah Love. And he's just the best player. Like, why is it wrong to just go BPA when you have that kind of guy on the board?
Well, the reason why too I introduced it is because they're a team where he could actually maximize his value because of the ecosystem, which is why I was like looking at the Giants. I'm like, I don't know, man. But they do have a lot of needs of defense, so that's obviously it's more just so like obviously he's probably not going to be there, but if he was, it would be a funny and interesting spot for him. I'm going to give you two offensive players for the Rams. I'm going to go put Tyson back here, and I'm going to put Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end out of Oregon.
I'll go Kenyon Sadiq just because I want to see what Sean McVay comes up with if he could put 4 tight ends on the field at once. I think he would. He's a great blocker. Like he can play wide tight end, even though he's not like the biggest guy. Like he can play wide tight end. He blocks. Obviously, he's super fast. And I think he's a really good complementary skill set to what they already have in that tight end room. I mean, hell, he'd be rejoining a former teammate in that tight end room. And I don't know exactly how McVay would use him, but I think that's kind of the fun of it, is because I know McVay would figure it out. Like I really, really do think that it could be awesome. And hell, you have him and Puka on the field, both kind of off the line of scrimmage. Like, who's going to be the insert? I don't know. I guess we'll find out when the ball is snapped. Like, there's a lot of creative stuff you could do there.
All right, so the Ravens had a desperate need an interior offensive line, but unfortunately, this draft is really top heavy in that regard. Like I'm looking at my names and I'm not seeing many options for them. So I'm going to go receiver here. I'm going to put Jordan Tyson back as an option. And then I'm going to throw in a corner, Jermod McCoy. They hit on Nate Wiggins, but opposite him is still a question mark. I think they brought back Awuzie, but I do think they could use another corner. So McCoy versus that's just funny because it's the injured guys who are special kind of
Yeah.
matchup, right? Because they really are kind of two sides of that coin. Who would you take?
Boy, the Ravens taking a receiver first round, a tradition unlike any other. I'm going to go Jermod McCoy, though. I do think that he would be more of an instant impact for this team. I'm actually kind of surprised that Marlon Humphrey's still there. I'm not going to lie. I thought he was a cut candidate for them. But he's coming back. And, when you're looking at Wiggins, okay, we like Wiggins. I think Awuzie, you can start Awuzie and feel okay about it. But, I think McCoy could take Awuzie's job as a rookie. I really do. And, again, I'm not complaining about having 4 guys that can start for us at corner. But even then, I kind of feel like Marlon's pretty close to being about that time. So if he really does fall off a cliff in 2026, we already have an answer on the team. We don't have to keep throwing him out there. And at receiver, I do think that receiver is an issue for this team as far as depth, but there's a bunch of day 2 receivers that I like that kind of fit the role that I think they need, which is like a true outside X receiver. So I think we can look at that on day 2, but you're not getting Jermod McCoy on day 2.
Agree about that. All right, the Bucs, very clear need pass rush. So I'm going to give you a choice between 2 pass rushers. Keldrick Falk out of Auburn and Akeem Mesidor out of Miami.
Ooh, I'll go Akeem Mesidor here. He is the kind of guy who can just maximize his rookie contract, and this is something that I've really come to believe in over the last year or so, especially as we've started to see prospects be older because of NIL. Having a guy who we think is going to be Akeem Mesidor's level by the time he's in his third year of his deal is nice. You know, you're drafting him at 20 years old. We're going to develop him along the way, like Shamar in Cincinnati. But if it does take them 3 years to reach that ceiling, we've kind of burned half the rookie deal, just getting him to the place that Mesidor already is at. So even though he is an older prospect, and it's like, okay, we're not going to get 3 contracts out of him. We're not going to get 3 contracts out of most NFL players. I'd rather have a guy who I know is good immediately and can contribute immediately on the rookie deal. We maximize all 5 years of that rookie deal, and we figure it out as we go, you know, depending on where he's at when he's 28 years old or whatever he is by the end of his rookie deal. But like, we're not really getting surplus value on a raw young player if they're not going to be good till year 3 or year 4. And I think Tampa, like, they're really trying to get back in the mix right now. I don't think they can afford to take a guy that is a few years away from contributing. So give me Akeem Mesidor. Yes, he's old, but he's good. And at the end of the day, I'm just trying to draft good players.
The Jets already have their edge. Shish. They took Arvell Reese, but they're back on the clock. It's the final pick of the first half of the second round. A lot of directions they could go in. Ty Simpson will be brought up here if he has not been taken incessantly on every broadcast. I guarantee you that. But I'm going to give you a choice between a wide receiver and a corner instead. I'm going to go Jordan Tyson, again, still here, versus Avion Terrell out of Clemson.
Here is where I feel okay with taking Jordan Tyson, because the Jets receiving core is really not bad. In my opinion, like, you got Garrett Wilson as your one. I still believe AD Mitchell has something in him. I really do. I don't know I don't know how long it's going to take to see it, but like, I do believe in the talent there, but we're not relying on Tyson to be our number one. And I think that him is like your immediate likely number 2. If AD Mitchell maximizes his talent, maybe even like high in number 3, but like, we're getting 5 years of contract control and we are insulated from injury because we have enough guys that we can put on the field. So I think the Jets are a pretty good destination for him. And again, we're just trying to lay the foundation for 2027 when we go up and get whatever guy we actually want. If you're coming into a situation where we have Fashanu and Membu, and we got Myers and Tittman, and they just brought in Parham, like, it's good offensive line. We got a good running back, Mason Taylor, we believe in, plus 3 receivers that we believe in, assuming Tyson stays healthy. That's a hell of a destination. Yeah. In fact, the Jets are probably going to be good enough where
that's like, a pretty good offense right there.
Pretty good offense, right? Like, Geno Smith just has to like be average, and they're not going to be picking top 5, which is why they have all those extra picks, because they know they're not going to be picking.
They want to maneuver around. Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, up. If I'm a Jets fan, I come out of this draft with Arvell Reese and Jordan Tyson. I'm feeling pretty freaking good.
Feeling all pretty good.
Take a quick break, come back, and after the turn, the Detroit Lions. All right, we're back. So the Lions, I would say, trenches both sides of the ball, or, you know, edge and offensive line in general. I'm going to just give you 2 offensive linemen, which is obviously their most glaring need, because I want to hear your thoughts on this debate. We're going to go Lomu. Yeah, I haven't taken my Tufano. Versus Monroe Freeling. Caleb Lomu, I should say, the tackle out of Utah.
I would probably lean Caleb Lomu here.
Okay.
And it's because A, he's more experienced, and B, I really do believe in the tape. In fact, I would say Lomu is being undervalued, in my opinion, because watching him on tape, I know he does play a little bit high, but it's a position of comfort for him because he tends to take on guys high and then sink into it later in the rep. Some people say he's got technical faults, and it's like, that's not a technical fault if that's what he's comfortable with and what he's very effective with. He's got great hands, very, very good technician, again, post contact with the edge rusher, experienced guy. You know, he could play left or right. Great guy to have in the room. I feel like the Lions would be really, really comfortable with him being a starting tackle for them on day 1.
The Vikings cannot believe that Caleb Downs is available for them at pick 18. I almost don't. I'm trying to find an alternate choice because it would be such a freaking dream for them. And I am struggling. Okay. So I'll just say the alternate choice here is that they have traded Jonathan Grenard in this hypothetical world and they're considering Keldrick Falk as a pass rusher. But like, is this really a choice?
I would say it's Downs here. And they were probably going into the draft thinking that they were going to get the Thieneman.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they're getting Caleb
I know. I
Downs.
was like, I
So-
couldn't bring myself to do Downs versus Thieneman because I was like, come on, like, let's be serious here.
And I
Yeah.
will say, Thieneman, awesome
Good
player.
player.
I
Good
think
player.
he could go as high
Would
as
not be
12 with
happy if
Dallas.
they took him at 18. It's just this choices. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just how the board broke.
It's how the board broke. Exactly. Okay. We don't even need to talk about it. It's so obvious. The Carolina Panthers at 19. So, Brett, when I did my team needs, I was actually surprised by how good I felt about the Panthers roster. I was like, wow, you actually don't have that many needs on this
Mhm.
team. It's a really good football team. I mean, receiver, linebacker. I mean, they brought in Lloyd, obviously, but tight end. This is way too early to take tight end too. So weirdly, like the draft could go in a bunch of different directions. I'm gonna throw in. They don't need a corner. It's like. So I'm gonna throw in another pass rusher. I'm gonna put Falk back on here. I know that they paid Jalen Phillips and they have got Scorton and they double dipped last year, but I still think it's a thing they could address. Oh, actually, sorry, no, scratch that. I'm gonna put Thieneman on the board here.
I was just thinking,
Safety,
I
yeah,
was
yeah.
like, because
Versus,
he'll come in and take Nick Scott's job.
yeah, right, yeah. Sorry, that was an oversight by me. Thieneman versus, I'm gonna put in Omar Cooper Jr.
Oh, see, now you're, oh boy,
Great fit with T Mac.
I know that's what's tough.
Got to see what you got in Bryce. I mean, make a big decision on him, but Thieneman's probably the better player.
I'm still gonna go with the Thieneman just because I do think that like they really need safety help more than they need receiver help, and there are some guys on day 2 that I think would fit well in this Panthers offense, and like they're not desperate at receiver because they got T-Mac and they got Coker, and I guess maybe eventually we'll see if Xavier Legette works out, but like worst case scenario, okay, Jimmy Hart Jr. I think can be your 3, but I think they can bring in day 2 receiver, but like we can't pass up on Thieneman here to come and be our immediate free safety of the future. I think he's an awesome player. I said it. I think he could go as early as like 11 or 12 to Miami or Dallas. So the situation we just had with Minnesota, they would be lucky to get Thieneman to begin with. Carolina is really lucky to get Thieneman.
Pick 20, Dallas. They took Love, which is obviously not going to happen, but in our draft, I love that it did. So got to go defense here. You go multiple positions. I'm going to give you CJ Allen, linebacker out of Georgia, versus Avion Terrell, the cornerback out of Clemson.
Ooh, that's interesting. I thought you might throw Falk up there.
I know.
That's an interesting curveball.
I know.
I think out of those two, I'll go Avion Terrell. And so we're looking at a corner group of Savone Revel, Kobe Durant, who they brought in free agency, as well as Deron Bland to be their nickel. But Terrell, I think, is a really interesting fit for the style of defense that this team's going to play, which is very Vic Fangio-ish. Fangio's top lieutenant, Parker, is going to be their new DC. And so it's a lot of quarters. It's a lot of quarter, half, and a lot more man coverage than you would think, because within these match zone looks, they're playing man coverage on the outside. And I think considering Deron Bland's going to be your nickel, you need a guy that can match up man-to-man outside. And I kind of believe in Terrell for that more than I believe in Kobe Durant. I think they brought in Kobe Durant just to make sure they had something. I don't think they're fully settled on him as being like your starting outside corner that you can lock on the X backside and leave him there. So I'll go with Avion Terrell. I think he's a really good corner. He's light, but he doesn't play light, and he's a good fit.
Good against the run. He's a good tackler too.
Mm-hmm.
Steelers 21. Another roster where I was like, they're in great shape. F it. Put Ty Simpson on the board here. Put him against Monroe Freeling, the tackle out of Georgia.
Oh, that's an interesting debate. Right? Because on paper, you're like, okay, I kind of see the vision with the Steelers offensive line. We're still waiting for Broderick Jones.
Yeah.
to be something, and he's going into the last year of his rookie deal. I don't think they picked up the 5th-year option, did they? Off the
I
top
don't
of my
believe
head.
so.
So, like, okay, we're thinking 2027, they might need a tackle anyway. And do we think that Freeling, who is an inexperienced guy, if we develop him on the bench, do we think that he can be, our starter in 2027 and beyond? And we just have that taken care of so that we can focus on quarterback in an objectively better quarterback class. I think I'm talking myself into it. Let's go with Freeling.
Next, we've got the Chargers, near and dear to your heart, at 22. Could go in a few directions here. This is another one of those teams where interior offensive line is in need, but it feels like first round is rich for a lot of the prospects I've watched. You could go, the 2 top safeties are off, but you could go safety, you could go receiver. Let's put Cooper Jr. back on the board. And I will throw a guard into the mix. Let's go Pregnon, the guard out of Oregon. It might be perceived as a bit rich for him, but I like
but also at the same time, have we seen the Chargers guards play? Right.
Not great.
I'll go Pregnon there.
Wait, sorry. Let me revisit that. Sorry, I keep forgetting that I want to do Falk, but then just the Steelers didn't need edge. Let's go Falk versus Pregnon.
See, that's an interesting,
because they do need pass rush,
right? Because like you brought in Khalil for a year.
Yeah.
And Thule has to get paid, and so we're thinking about the edge rotation. And I do think the Chargers, by the way, are live for an edge in the first round because they have to plan for having a rookie deal that can offset the $35 million that Thule's going to get, right? And Khalil's only there for a year. But man, their guard play's been so bad. I'll go Pregnon.
Okay.
But acknowledging that like day 2 has to have an edge included in there.
Is there a guard you like better than Pregnon after Ioane? It's just such a drop off.
There's kind of like this group that's all together with Pregnon and Keelan Rutledge and Chase Bisontis from Texas A&M. You could talk me into Bisontis there, right?
Whose name I forgot, but yeah, Bisontis. Yeah,
but Pregnon, like he's pro ready, like he's ready to go right now. I wouldn't hate the pick, and I think he's just better than what they have. Like I don't think you can go wrong there.
All right, the Eagles are happy because I'm going to give them the option of taking Keldrick Falk. The other option, I want to introduce another edge. Let's go TJ Parker here, who we talked about before we started taping. TJ Parker versus Keldrick Falk for the Philadelphia Eagles.
I'm going to go with TJ Parker. And
wow.
I will acknowledge I am higher on Parker than I think most people are. Right. And I think he fits a similar profile to Falk in terms of how they rush. Like they are power focused players. And like I said, I will always favor power rushers, developed by Chris Rumpf at Clemson. He had offers to go elsewhere for higher money, but he stayed at Clemson because Rumpf, he had coached Khalil Mack in the NFL. He had coached Daniil Hunter in the NFL. He coached Whitney Merciless in the NFL. Guys that were built like him, 6'3", mid 260s, power rushers. And he learned that devastating long arm at Clemson from Rumpf. Like they made it a point. Like we're going to develop you as a power player because that's what works in the NFL. We're going to get you paid in the NFL. So I'm big on TJ Parker. He's going to be great for the room. And also they just need more power edges in that Eagles rotation. They've tended to go kind of lighter on edges in the past, other than like with BG. But I think they need that power component to complement what they have on the interior. And I think Parker would be a great fit.
The Browns, with their 6th pick, took an offensive tackle, Spencer Fano, instead of a receiver or an edge. I could have offered Bailey there. So that's all on the table. I'm going to give you a choice of 2 receivers to continue the spirit of trying to get things ready for the quarterback next year. And I'm going to go a receiver who I actually have next, Denzel Boston versus Omar Cooper Jr. And I didn't introduce Boston for the Chargers because it just didn't feel like the skill set that they needed. But it is the Chargers. The Browns need all skill sets for receivers. They can take any receiver. So really, this just comes down to who do you like better, Boston or Cooper, the receiver out of Indiana? Boston's the receiver, the big receiver out of Washington.
I think I'll go Cooper here just because I don't care where I line him up. Like I look at Denzel as like, okay, he's my outside
Mhm.
like X receiver, and he makes spectacular catches outside. Like he and kind of Rome, like you can tell he really studied Rome when he was coming out. In terms of trying to develop his game to be similar to Rome Odunze. But Cooper, I see him as being similar to like a a Sean McVay big slot, right? Like whether you're looking at Cooper or you're looking at Puka Nakua, like that kind of guy who really dominates inside with physicality, and just he's really good at reading coverages and knowing exactly where to be to make the throw as easy as possible for his quarterback, getting yards after the catch, catching everything. He's very much like that kind of guy where, yeah, I could put him outside, he'll win outside, but like I can put him inside and he will be a dominant player inside. And I think the Browns need that. Right now, you got Jerry Jeudy, who's fine. You got Cedric Tillman, who unfortunately hasn't really developed into what we thought he could be with his talent level. And it's a whole lot of who knows after that. So Cooper, I can at least put on the field and know he's going to have a role. But like, if he's my big slot of the future, I'm feeling great about it.
The Bears, I'm going to give you two defensive players. Keldrick Falk, still an option. It's a little early, but a player I love, Caden McDonald, the defensive tackle out of Ohio State. I think they could use both of these players. So,
Is it early? That's my, because I don't think it is. I really don't.
for me,
And I'm somebody who believes in the value of a nose tackle. Everybody says you got to go pass rusher, pass rusher, pass rusher. If you're never in 3rd and 7, the pass rusher isn't going to help you that much. Caden McDonald helps your pass rush by getting them into 3rd and 7 in the first place. He is somebody that you build your entire defense around on early downs. When the NFL, the vast majority of the time, they're still running the ball on early downs. Like we look at these high pass rate teams like Kansas City, where they pass a lot on 1st and 2nd down. They're not the norm. Most teams are running the ball a lot in 1st and 2nd down. Even the Rams run the ball in 1st and 2nd down a lot, and they throw it just as much as anybody. So I need somebody who can stop the run. I need somebody who can put them into 2nd and 9 and 3rd and 7, and then we can unleash the hounds there. I understand they still need pass rush help, but we're not going to get to that point if we can't stop the run. Caden McDonald could stop the run.
all right. I'm gonna keep Falk up here for the Bills, who are next. They signed Bradley Chubb. You got Rousseau, but I still think edge is a need. And as an option, I'm also gonna throw in the third safety, Emmanuel McNeil Warren, out of Toledo.
Here's where I'll finally have Falk go off the board. And I acknowledge he's probably not going to be here in the real draft. He's probably going to go earlier than this. He also does stop the run really well, too. People have questions about him as a pass rusher right now, which I fully understand. The reason why I went Parker over Falk is I think Parker is more ready as a pass rusher than Falk. But Falk, like, as far as upside and ceiling and that argument that we like to make, he's got as much upside, if not more upside, than any other edge in this class, even including over Ruben Bain. His tools really are spectacular. He's just not all the way there yet as a pass rusher. But at least immediately he can contribute as a run defender. And we know he's very coachable. Like he was the leader of that Auburn defense. You know, when I was down on the field during drills at Combine, like he was the juice guy in a group of edges that he had never met before. Like he was encouraging everybody, like getting everybody from drill to drill. Like he's that kind of guy to have in the room. So he'll fit well in Buffalo. But you have to acknowledge that, okay, he might not be there as a pass rusher until 2027, 2028. And this is really more of an investment into the back half of Josh Allen's career than it is into making a run in 2026.
The San Francisco 49ers are 27. It was funny doing team needs because it was so like if he's healthy or if he play like they're, like what's the status of certain players, and also the big question, the big elephant in the room, Trent Williams and what the plan is there. I think regardless, tackle offensive line is what I would do if I'm San Francisco at this point in the draft. So I'm going to give you a choice between two tackles. And the nice thing about San Francisco is if Williams does come back, they don't have to play immediately, right? That's sort of the luxury of drafting here. I'm going to have you choose between, I practice the pronunciation, Max Ianichor out of
Nailed it.
ASU, who is a player I only got turned on to when I was watching him versus David Bailey, and then kind of went down a rabbit hole, and I think he's very exciting. Or perhaps a bit more polished, Caden Proctor out of Alabama.
I'll go Hihanator. there. He hasn't played football for very long. You couldn't really tell on tape. The fact that he is where he is as a player, despite not even playing the sport 5 years ago, is a testament to how coachable he is. And he is just so gifted athletically. Like watching him in person, the way he moves, especially with the way he's built, like he's got a massive, massive trunk on him. Like power is not going to be an issue for him to handle at the next level. Like his quads are the size of me. He's a crazy, crazy athlete, and I believe that his upside is high end starting tackle for a really long time, and he's almost there as it is, despite being new to the sport.
The Houston Texans. This is a tricky one because there's now I like doing these graphs because you start to notice themes, and one of the themes is a lot of teams need interior offensive line in the first round, and I would put the Texans in that category. And yet it just doesn't align, right? Like with where they're picking. Like I just don't see players who match that value. So they could be a trade down team, for example. That's not out of the realm of possibility. But I'm not going to give you an interior offensive lineman here. They did address the rest of their. Let me pull it up really quickly. Just to remind folks the Texans and what they did. We talked about it in team needs. What they actually did make some, I think, sensible additions, shall we say, on the offensive line. Let's pull up Houston here. Where you going? You've got Ursery at left tackle. There we go. Oops, sorry. Pull it up. All right. There we go. Finally. Scrolling took forever. Ursery, Teller, Andrews, who they brought in, Ingram, who had a good year, and then they signed Braden Smith. So it's no longer like a 5-alarm fire. I still think they need to add to the interior of the offensive line. There's a lot of filibustering, even though I'm not going to give you options there. The options I am going to give you are... All right, let's get weird. Jarian Price, the running back out of Notre Dame. They did bring in David Montgomery, but I still think they need juice there. You got Woody Marks. Obviously, we know that the run game has been an issue. Or, God, offensive line is such a need. You said you like, God, I don't know. You know what? Let's put CJ Allen up here because I think that's like the one area where I wouldn't mind them adding to the defense. So CJ Allen,
because, yeah.
Yeah, versus Jadarian Price. Which direction would you go in?
So if they go CJ Allen, it's because they don't intend to do a long-term extension with Azeez Al-Shaair. And if it's because they don't intend to do a long-term extension with Henry To'oTo'o. Or they only plan on doing one of them, but not both. And if memory serves, both of them are going to be free agents after this coming season. I'll double check on that real quick. I'm pretty sure that they are, though. Yes, unfortunately, they both are. So if they're, or at least Azeez is, To'oTo'o might only have one more year. So if we're going to go CJ Allen, is planning for the future there. But at the same time, Jadarian Price, I think, would fill a very similar role for Jeremiah Love in Dallas, where it's like, we're not going to give 28 carries a game to David Montgomery, right? So it's like, do we want Woody Marks to get the other 10 carries, or do we want Jadarian Price to get the other 10 carries? I would understand the Jadarian Price argument there because we think he can do more with 10 carries than Woody Marks can. But at the same time, we're pretty sure Woody's going to be on the field on third down anyway because he's a good pass protector. So it's like, are we kind of over indexing on running back here and trying to narrowly slice their roles a little bit too much here? Given the options, I think looking beyond 2026, CJ Allen's going to play more snaps. So I'll lean CJ Allen there. But I also wouldn't be surprised if they do go running back there.
Would you have taken Proctor over both of them? You're a Texans fan, so I want to.
I'll be honest. I probably would have gone Basantis.
Right?
And that's even including the Wyatt Teller pickup because that's not going to be forever. And if you're looking at the upcoming contracts they have to pay Will Anderson. Danielle Hunter's cap hit's really high. Stingley's cap hit's going to be really high. They're pretty close to having to do another deal with Nico Collins. And if CJ Stroud ends up being even like solid, that's $50 million a year,
right?
Going rate. So Teller's not going to be a long-term answer for them at guard. And I kind of think that they want to have a rookie there on a rookie deal that doesn't cost $20 million a year, which is what the top of the guard market's going to be. So I might end up, if I had the option of just saying anybody I want, it'd probably be
Yeah, you
Basantis.
would have done Basantis. Okay, well, we're gonna do CJ Allen, but that's good info. It's hard. It comes down to like player versus need, and you start like
Exactly.
I like
Yeah.
Allen so much more as a player. Okay, Kansas City Chiefs. This is fun. Denzel Boston is still on the board. Denzel
Oh,
Boston
baby.
to the Chiefs versus a few directions they could go in. So as a reminder, we had Delane earlier. So I'm going to go edge here, and I'm going to give you Cassius Howell. So Cassius Howell versus, oh, you know what? No, I don't. I just don't like Howell enough. I'm going to go Denzel Boston versus Casey Concepcion, who's a player I do like a lot.
Ooh.
Very different flavors of player.
Very different flavors. I'll go Boston because I think that they can get some of the KC Concepcion stuff from the existing guys on the roster. I don't think they're going to get the Denzel Boston stuff from the existing guys on the roster.
Can you imagine? Oh, I would love this if Denzel
That's
Boston landed in Kansas. What a fit.
Oh my God. And just the first round that the Chiefs are getting here. Like, you're
Delane
not really
in Boston. That's such a sick haul. Oh,
you're not sorry about the McDuffie trade at that point because you're getting a starting corner for nothing and you're getting a receiver for nothing.
And you're getting two players who can play immediately.
Yes.
You know, like that's the thing about Delane and Boston is they're both very pro ready in my estimation. The floor is, you know, you're getting guys who can come in and be which is Kansas City. This is not a team that can afford to have guys sit for a year at those positions or play behind people. And I genuinely believe both those two players can be plus starters for Kansas City very quickly.
Yeah. And your arch nemesis, Nick Wright, does believe that Pat's playing week 1. So what better way to welcome back to the NFL than giving him Denzel Boston?
How sick would that be? All right. Pick 30 is now belongs to the Miami Dolphins after the trade. We gave the Dolphins, it was a receiver, right? Mekhi Lemon at pick 11. So they now have Mekhi Lemon, but there's still a lot of other needs on this roster. Do I double dip a receiver as an option? Because I do like Concepcion a lot. They do need corner, and there's some interesting corners available. So, and McNeil Warren, who I think they could use, quite frankly. All right, your choice is. Ooh, Peter Woods is still on the board too. Let's say Colton Hood, who is a cornerback out of Tennessee, physical, fun, feisty back corner. Or let's go. We already got a receiver. I don't think that they can do it. Or we'll say, let me look at Miami's really quickly, their safety room. I'm trying to remember.
You can't really go wrong. It's Dante Trader, Lonnie Johnson, Jordan Colbert. Like, they have nobody.
Yeah, okay. So McNeil Warren versus Colton Hood for Miami.
I'll go McNeil Warren just because, like,
PPA.
Well, they kind of can't survive with their current corner room either way. So, like, they just need DB. How about just DB? If their next 3 picks after receiver is DB, I think they're okay. Because their current starting day 1 secondary is Daryl Baker, Dante Trader, Lonnie Johnson, Storm Duck, Jason Marshall. They have nobody. So it's pick the best DB that you can. For me, it's McNeil Warren. I would understand if they went Colton Hood. I think Colton Hood would start for them and be a good one for them. But I think it's more likely that they're going to get a starting corner in the second round in this class than they are going to get a guy who's even close to McNeil Warren. So I'll go with that, but throw a dart. Like, anybody would start for them right now.
Patriots at 31. I would love Concepcion here too, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go Cassius Howell, pass rusher out of Texas A&M, versus let's bring back Proctor. I know that they feel good about Campbell at tackle. They've said that, but Morgan Moses can get up in the years position. They could still look to augment the offensive line.
And I want to double check exactly how many years that Morgan
Oh,
Moses
I'm sure
even
it's
has
like
left on
long.
his deal.
Yeah, I was.
Um,
That's
because I tend to like when I'm drafting the first round, I tend to try to draft for like, okay, what's my need going to be a year from now? And I'm I'm pretty sure if Moses isn't in the last year of his deal, he has no more than 2 years left. So I'll go with
he has 1 year after this. He has this year and then the next year. And it's probably it's nothing if they want to cut him after this
yeah,
year.
I'll still go with Brock because again, like if he gets hurt, we're still not really
Right.
insulated,
Or
at
Campbell gets hurt
tackle.
again, or maybe they do decide to kick Campbell inside.
Yeah, we're looking at Marcus Bryant or James Hudson as our starters if one of those guys gets hurt. So I'll go with Caden Proctor there and just insulate myself from injury.
All right. The final pick, the Seattle Seahawks.
Do you want to be gluttonous with KC?
I know. I don't.
Just for fun.
Well, when you think about it, because it's probably Cups last year, right? It's not crazy, but they
Well,
did pay. I mean,
the
after paying
argument
two
the
receivers.
argument for receiver is we need a rookie deal to offset the JSN money.
Yeah, but I mean, Horton, Bobo, it's not crazy and it would be sick, but I just think allocation of resources, you probably can't do it. I'm going to, and this would also be a possible price spot. I'm not going to give you that option because I'm going to throw my body in front of it right now. Um, all right. The choices I'm going to give you are, let's put up Colton Hood back as a corner. Let's do two corners. Screw it. Because I do think this is a good corner spot. It's obviously an area of need but also an area where you could take someone raw, like say a Brandon Cisse. Cisse? Is that how you say his name?
Mhm.
Who is a very athletic, very fun player, but to my eyes needs some development versus Colton Hood, who I think is a little bit more pro ready.
I'll go Colton Hood just because DB, statistically speaking, is the position group, especially corner, is the position group that gets injured the most at the NFL level. I actually see corner almost as like the running back of defense in the sense that uh, your depth will run out faster than you think if your main guy gets hurt. And part of the reason why the Seahawks were so good last year is they had depth at DB. Like when they got banged up, at corner or at safety, they always had somebody else that could come in and play. So I'm advocating for depth here. And even if he's not immediately playing over Spoon and Joby, and obviously Eamon Worry's your nickel, but like you can't rely on them to play 17 games because very few teams have both of their starting corners play every single game. And we also, again, have to future proof because we're pretty sure that Spoon's going to be the highest paid DB in the NFL at some point. And I would say that having a rookie deal or contract control for 5 years to offset the eventual Spoon money would help a lot as well. So I'll go Colton Hood there. He can play immediately. He just won't have to because this team is so good. And if you have Eamon Worry and Colton Hood next to each other, fades are off the table at that point. Like you have so much size in that secondary. I think it's a great fit.
He's a very like prototypical old school Seahawks corner in some ways. All right, that's all 32 picks in the first round. I think maybe the biggest surprises, and all that this had to do, this was a collaboration. Bailey falling to 7, Caleb Downs falling to 18 is probably the biggest one. But when I look at the players who I think might go in the first round, really not that many surprise names fell out, right? Like, I guess I didn't give you Peter Woods or Caleb Banks, but those are names you might see next time we do this. Concepcion is the receiver that I like, and then of course we didn't give Ty Simpson in the first round. So that is any surprises to you, that names you thought are going to go first round that I didn't mention?
I would say Banks, but it's not even like your fault. It's just we couldn't find a spot, right?
Which
That
is
that
that's
made
why I
sense.
like doing this, because it like shows you, I think, like takeaways, interior offensive line. A lot of teams need it. There aren't a lot of options. There aren't that many teams that need defensive tackles. That is something that jumped out to me as well. So
At least
yeah,
desperately, Right.
Desperately, yeah. Could have gone Texans there in retrospect. Maybe I'll do that next time. Brett, where can folks find your draft work?
So I am all over the place these days. I'm either at my own personal channel at Brett Kollmann on YouTube. I'm actually working on a piece that I shot at the combine on like what the ideal measurements are for an edge at the NFL level. So when you're looking at this edge class, I think that'll help people sort it out. I do stuff on the NFL's channel, which I also have another piece coming out on the NFL's channel about roster makeup, like how many homegrown talents versus free agent pickups do playoff teams have versus like teams picking in the top 5. And then obviously over on the Bootleg Football channel, we have podcasts that come out every week. And our mutual friend, Daniel Jeremiah, is going to be coming on pretty soon there.
Amazing. Go check it out. I will be back later this week with Nate and Danny to talk quarterbacks and running backs. Just because there aren't enough quarterbacks to do a quarterback podcast this year. And then the following week, we'll have my second War Room. So a reminder, we're going to be doing these on Mondays. They are dropping until the draft. And I'll start doing trades next week. Let us know in the comments if you're an angry fan or a happy fan based on what we gave you. Just the happy ones, please.